Hi, welcome to the DIY Photo Organising podcast. I'm Fiona from Photo Helper.
And I'm Chantal from Simply in Order Photo Organising. Imagine you can find any photo at any time at the click of a button. We are here to show you how.
So let's get started. Hi, and welcome to episode 4. This is golden rule number 3, creating a hub. So what we'd love to go through in this episode with you is firstly we're going to talk a little bit about what is a hub. We'll talk about why have a hub, what's the point, some options that you've got when you're considering what to use as your own personal hub when you're going through your own photo organising project. Then we'll talk about what goes on the hub. What's the very next step once you've got that together? And so we call that the hunt and gather. So we'll go through some strategies and ideas about how to do that. And then we'll move into what to do once you've found those photos and how do you put them all in, a bit of a structure, some steps for you to take. And then that'll give you a really good idea of what the best practices are moving forward.
Very good.
So, all right. So, Chantal, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. So let's get started. We're going to talk about what is a hub. So when we talk about a hub, we're talking about the hardware of where your photos are actually stored. So this isn't the software that you're using. This isn't related to anything specific in the software. We're talking about the location of your original photos and where they will be stored. This is a central location. And what we're talking about as this hub, separate to what we've spoken about in a previous episode with our backup, we've backed up our whole computer and everything there. This is separate and in addition to what we've been talking about so far. So this is for your photos only, and you may include your videos in this as a location in these as well. But we're really talking about something as almost if you look at it like your old photo album shelf.
Right.
So like you used to put your photos in albums and put them on the shelf when they were in one location. And this is really what we're talking about in our photo world today is very different to what it used to be. And so this is just think of it as a physical location of where you're storing your actual photos. So these are the original photos, and that's what we're talking about when we talk about a hub.
Right.
Fantastic. So, Chantal, tell us why have a hub? What's the point?
Yeah. Why should we go through all these, that work to do a hub or to create a hub? So one very obvious point, I think, as you just mentioned, the hub is in one central location. Obviously, that makes it a lot easier to back it up and to keep these photos safe. And a hub is also the place where we actually curate our photo collection. That's where we sort the photos, where we can find them and search for them. And even if they're not sorted yet in the hub at this point in time, it is still going to be faster to find photos because we know where to look for them. They're all in one place. So exactly. This is the reason why we create a hub. And of course, also everything being in one central location, we automatically avoid multiples. So we don't create duplicates, and we know where everything is, and we don't have to go to different places and find these photos. And as I mentioned, possibly we already have created duplicates without knowing and created a mess.
Yeah.
So in a photo organising world, we also mustn't forget that sometimes we are the photo manager, so to speak, of the family photos. It's usually one person, often it's the wife. But however, we mustn't forget that in a household, this person is not the only person. So maybe other people need to go into that photo hub at one point in time and also find photos. If it's all in one place, it's very obviously a lot easier for them to find photos. And also for the ongoing management of the photos, as we already mentioned, it will be easier to do that when we go in our next podcast episode. We will talk about organising photos. So this again is obviously easier if it's in one spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and there's that general, you know, in the organising world, in general, there is always that saying you will have heard in the past that everything needs a home, and it's the same with photos. They need a home, and the home is the photo hub.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, and I think that's something else just to clarify as well. We're talking about that with our digital photos here, obviously, with that hardware. And so that's that home for those digital photos. And with our printed photos, right now, everyone would have a home. It may be scattered.
Yes.
They may be in drawers and in boxes and, you know, still in envelopes or printed from the shop, you know, years ago, sort of. But they're somewhere, and that's really that physical home. And what we can, as an option that we would be suggesting to people to consider when they're organising their own photos, is whether or not this hub we're talking about, this hardware central location for their digital photos, would also then include a scanned copy or a digital copy of those printed photos. So that's something, having this kind of a hub will allow them that opportunity to know exactly where to put them when they've been scanned or whatever they choose to do.
Exactly.
From there. Wonderful. So what are some of the options for actually having a hub? What does a hub look like? What can a hub possibly look like in some of our options for people if they're looking at doing this themselves?
There's a few options. So the most obvious is probably on your actual computer. If you still do have a computer. Some people don't these days, especially younger people, but we'll get to that in a moment. On your computer, it's basically your hard drive, simple as that. And what we always recommend when you want to keep your photo hub on your computer hard drive, have a look at your storage. Oftentimes, especially if you do have a notebook, the storage space might not be very big and it will not be big enough to hold your complete photo hub. Or especially if you add videos to it too, because they're massive files, it adds up really quickly. So they might not fit onto your computer. So double check that, look at your storage. And also don't forget that the hub will grow. You will keep adding photos and videos, and the photo, you know, the camera quality becomes better and better. So these days, even a simple phone photo takes up like 5 megabytes, if not bigger. So that will probably become even bigger in the future. So we need more space. So keep that in mind when you decide where you want to keep your hub. The other option, of course, is if you don't have enough space on your computer, you go to an external hard drive. And you plug that into your computer and you keep all your photos and your videos on that external drive. That's, I would say, probably most of my clients actually do that because of the sheer volume. It's really too big.
And when we start talking about really gathering everything that they've got together, it's it can be a bit deceiving initially. They think, oh no, it's only these few files, and then they go, oh, hang on, there's this extra, and oh yeah, I've got these extra things, and so it really can get very large very quickly.
It can. And also when you do use an external hard drive, be mindful of the formatting of that drive. These drives are they come usually in either Windows formatted or Mac, so pay attention to that, and if need to be, you can reformat them. And, you know, simply ask the guys maybe when you go and buy an external drive what you need to consider. And there is also actually a format that is supposed to work on Windows and on Mac, but I know that we've both had bad experience with that, so
they can be temperamental. So just be very cautious with that as an option.
You have experienced that as well.
Definitely. And it look, it's a variable because it does depend on the actual software versions that you're using on either of the computers, and there are a lot of different formatting options out there. So yeah, we would definitely say, if at all possible, if you're just a Mac user, get the hard drive, external hard drive that is formatted for the Mac, and the same for the Windows, or get one and you can reformat that yourself. So that is definitely an option out there, yeah.
So how about the people who don't actually have a computer or a place where they can plug in an external drive?
Yes,
that becomes a reality.
It does, it does. So one of the things that, as we're sort of clarifying what the hub is, we're saying that is a physical hardware, a location to store the originals. If they don't have a computer, or they don't have, then they can't get an external hard drive because they don't have something to plug that into, then that may be their phone, and it may be, another tablet device where that is then the original location of the photos. So that is definitely an option for people, and that would then be what we would consider their hub. Yeah. And it would be an option, and there are some options for how to back those up, obviously, when you're backing up your phone. But we're definitely not recommending that is the best way to go if you don't then easily do backups. So if you have a computer, then we would be suggesting that you do the external hard drive option as the option, instead of just keeping them on the phone, as using that as the hard drive. But obviously there are different companies out there. There's a range of different products, even just down at the local Officeworks and places like that you can stick into the phone and do the backup of photos straight off the phone. So then the original photos still need to be sitting somewhere, and so that would then be your hub. And so that's what we're talking about there. Some people may think that the cloud storage that they're using, which may hold their original photos, is the hub. And that is an option. It's definitely available. Again, it's not something that we would be recommending strongly. And the reason for that is that you just don't have the control over those original photos. If something happens to that cloud storage facility or company, then really there's a higher risk that's out of your control of being able to manage and save those original photos. So we're saying that if at all possible, keep them on the phone if you need to, but then that is called your hub. And then we're talking about, go back to our previous episodes, especially the one on backup, with the 3-2-1 backing up recommendations in best practice that we've talked about. So there's definitely still some options out there for them.
Very good.
Yeah.
So tell us about the next step. Now we've decided, yes, we do need a hub. It's a good idea to have one. And we've heard about the options. We've decided what our hub is going to be, where it's going to live. So what's the next step? Tell us about that.
All right. So the next step is the fun part of finding all of your little photos hidden everywhere. So really it's a bit of a hunt and gather mission. Yeah. So we just want, what our suggestions are is go and find every place where you would have stored all of your different scatterings of photos. So they're things like your old CDs, USBs, cameras, any SD cards, DVDs, old phones, old computers. I mean, really, there's a bit of an endless list of device sort of types over the years. So they may come back to even as, going back to slides. They're anything really where your photos are. But for now, we're looking at this from a digital point of view, things that are already digital. So that's where we're talking about the physical. A physical device that is has photos on it. So that's what we're talking about with the DVD and CDs and USBs. The other option then, once you've gone through that physical hardware that you need to gather, then go through and gather the soft copy versions of photos. So they're sort of hidden, somewhere hidden in like emails and different types of social media places, Instagram, Facebook. This is places where you're able to, you know photos are, but you want them in your hub. So rather than being scattered, they're somewhere local. And then also in other apps, WhatsApp, you've got Messenger, Viber. Really, there's an endless amount of places that you could have been sent a photo, or you've received different things over time. So this is really an opportunity, because the main goal here is to get everything in one location. So that's called our hunt and gather method.
Yes.
Go find your photos. So after we've done that, Chantal, what would be the next best steps to take?
So you've gathered everything, right?
Yep.
Now we need to add it to the hub. So how do we do that? First of all, have a plan. Have a plan of attack. You're at the point where you have found all your photos and you've got all these devices. Let's say you've been walking around the house with a box or a basket or something and put all these old cameras and phones in. Now the next thing is to add them to the hub. How do you do that in real life, so to speak?
Yeah.
So you start with one and you copy down the photos that you've got on that device into your hub. Now, at this point in time, what we highly recommend is to keep the original on the device. Copy it. You're not moving that file, you're just copying it over to the photo hub, wherever that hub sits, whether that's your hard drive or an external drive, doesn't matter. And to have a bit of an overview and keep that under control, we recommend to use a logbook. I've been doing that for years myself, and I recommend that to all my clients, to have a logbook, a photo logbook. So that can be a simple notebook or even just a few sheets of paper. What I do personally, per device, I have a page in my book, and it will say, the camera so-and-so, and each time I download photos and add them to my hub, or I should probably say copy them to my hub. I'm not deleting them yet at this point in time. I make a note in my logbook and say, on that date, I've downloaded up to photo number so-and-so. And the next time I know exactly where to pick it up again.
That's great.
So
great advice,
I don't have to go forth and back. And it's, a little tiny step, but it will make your life a lot easier.
And I think just on that one too, it's definitely something that I'd recommend as well, and I use that as in an electronic form. But you start the process of the copy, and then it takes its time, and then you've done something else, and then you come back and and it's finished, so you can't see, and you may not know exactly which one you copied. Was it the second of those USBs or whichever? And so it really is a great way moving forward, because this people have got photos sort of scattered everywhere. And it's often not something you can just sit down in one block of time to do. So that logbook really is a great tip to be able to help people just have that list of what to do. Yeah.
And you've touched on something that we haven't mentioned so far, really, that this can take quite a bit of time. Sometimes you might find a USB that holds like 10 photos. Obviously, that's copied over in a few seconds, but you might also find an old hard drive that you completely forgot about, and it might take 2-3 hours to copy over all the pictures. And this is something I encounter quite regularly with clients. It's a massive amount of pictures, and it does take time to copy it over.
And then I think it's in those times where some people can get a bit frustrated with the process or not know where they're up to, and then that's where they're overwhelmed. So then they maybe try and copy it again because they haven't maybe labelled their files in the actual hub properly, and in a way that's clear for them to understand.
So we'd encourage you to do your own checklist, list what you have, what you found, what you've gathered, and keep track of what you've already copied, what Fiona just mentioned, because otherwise it's so easy to lose control, especially if we work on that project over a certain period of time, and if we can't do everything on the same day, 2 days later, we'll have forgotten what we've done. Well, I'm like that. We've got busy lives. So,
true.
That's why I write everything down. So, and talking of labeling, we'd also suggest that when you copy over these photos into your hub, create a folder with the name maybe of the device. So it would, for example, say the folder would be called Old Nokia Phone, and into that folder you copy over all these photos from that old Nokia phone, and then you go to the next device, which might be a USB. So you might want to number your USBs and even put a little sticky label on the USB. That's what I usually do. So I've got like an index, and I've got got it under control, what's been done and what hasn't been done. Everything into that hub. And now, very important, you have to back it up before you add even a keyword or move a folder or delete photos or remove duplicates. Don't do that yet. That's not the time to do it. Now is time to back up.
Exactly.
And if you have a big project, and if you have, if it spreads over a few days or even weeks until you have added everything to your hub, we would encourage you to, of course, back up between the sessions as well. So you don't have to start over again if anything should happen. So do continuous backups, but at least do one at the end once you've added everything to the hub before we go into organising that hub.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
That's great. So once they've actually done the backup, then you've got obviously this sort of all your devices and things that you've collected from. So at that point, because you've done a copy of those, it's really up to you as to whether or not if you're using those devices still, or, you want to delete that if it's a SD card or something for a camera. Some people I know, Chantal, you keep those as another copy of your backup.
That's right,
and that's definitely an option for people. But now at least you've got everything into the hub. And may we just say that we have to give you full credit if you've gotten this far, because really this is a step, even just that collection, the creation of a hub, and the putting everything that we can possibly find photos from into one place is such a huge step that people just have. It really is the key to starting on the right foot to be able to organise your photos. It really is such an empowering process. So if you do get this far and you've been able to create yourself a hub, then all praise to you guys, because it's such it really is it's the perfect place to then start to do the fun stuff. I mean, this is fun too, but
it can be a bit tedious.
It can be. But once it's all there, then you really can get into the chunky organising and the deciding which ones. Obviously, you've already got a plan and a vision and know why you're doing this. So then you can really jump into those things.
That's right. Yeah.
So we hope you've enjoyed this episode about talking about the hub and finding out all about what it is and why have one, and just given some useful options for that. But we just want to really encourage you as you're going about your photo organising project and doing this yourself to reach out to us if you need some support and if you've got any other questions. But really just follow those few simple steps to make those decisions up front. And then get yourself a logbook or just good sheet of paper or something on your computer or your phone, just with a list of where you're at, what you're doing, and have a goal in mind as to which steps to take next and which device to do next, and then once it's all done, then we can meet you over at the next episode and talk about some of the fun organising things, and what to do once they're all in one location. So thanks for joining us.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of DIY Photo Organising and found some inspiration, useful tips and strategies to support your photo projects.
We'd love to invite you to pop over to our Facebook page, DIY Photo Organising, and we welcome your questions, feedback and any future topics that you'd like us to cover. If there is someone you'd love to share this with, please click on share to help others take control of their photos too. Remember, have a look through our show notes for links to helpful information. I'm Fiona from Photo Helper.
And I'm Chantal from Simply in Order Photo Organising. And remember, we believe in you and you can do this.